Good evening. You are listening to Words About Books. Today we are discussing Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. Ernest Cline is a man without any honor. I am your host, the respectable Nate-san, but you can call me by my true title, Shuriken Katana 64. I am of course joined by my co-host, Ben-sama. Konnichiwa, Ben-sama! You cannot see this, but I am bowing profusely at you. You may notice that today I am doing my best to be a caricature of a stereotype, and that's exactly what it sounds like when you read these two Japanese characters, Ernest. You dick.
Oh my god.
Yeah, we didn't really touch on that last time as the end of part one, but there are two Japanese characters who are obsessed with being samurai. They name themselves after swords, and they bow profusely and talk about honor.
I know that is a stereotype of Japan, but I mean, I guess it was a stereotype more in the 80s, because as a, 2021 modern, I guess, Japanese culture enthusiast, we've talked on this podcast before. Like, I know very little Japanese, and I actually couldn't tell you the word for honor off the top of my head. Like,
it's not as important as he thinks.
It's not in anime. It's not even really in samurai movies. Like, I've watched all the Kurosawa films. Like, I don't know where that comes from. Everybody right now, Google Mickey Rooney Breakfast at Tiffany's.
There's a video.
Yeah, there is.
Oh my god. He's got glasses, and I think those are fake teeth.
Yes, they are.
Oh my god. Oh my god, this is way worse than what Ernest did. Ernest Cline seems to think that Japan is some sort of mythical other world or something. Or they've been stuck in like the 1400s. Or in a time that never even existed. I can't tell.
Well, it's weird though, because he knows about hikikomori, and in Ready Player 2, he just copiously points out that it's the exact plot of Sword Art Online. So he knows at least a little about Japan, or I guess that's a terrible. I'm sorry, Japan, to boil it down to hikikomori and Sword Art Online, but he has some other frame of reference. I don't know where this comes from. I don't know how it could be perceived.
He probably never went to Japan before this book was published.
Oh, that's a guarantee.
Yeah.
But he also probably never met a single Japanese person. But even then, it's not even the 80s stereotypical Japanese. It's the 60s stereotypical Japanese, where there was almost no exposure to Japanese media or...
Right.
Yeah, so it's a 60s stereotype
that may not have even existed.
That was kind of outdated by the 80s, which is where it's ostensibly from. And also, it's an American stereotype of the Japanese that two Japanese teenagers have put on themselves.
That's their entire personality, basically, is stereotypical Japanese. It's summarized in that one sentence. They don't feel like real people because, again, it's based on a Western stereotype.
Like, it doesn't even come from... Like, I could see if it came from old samurai movies, but it doesn't.
Yeah, there's actually some Japanese propaganda towards the end of the war that white men were giants, but they had weak knees, and so if they tried to invade the islands, you got to go for the knees. That's our weakness.
If you hit me in the knee with a shovel, I'm going down. I think that's everybody's weakness, but yeah.
So yeah, if there were a Ready Player One, but written by a Japanese author, other than the copyright issue that we talked about, all the white characters would be easily defeated by shots to the knees, but they'd also be like 7 feet tall. God, I was so I'm only a quarter Japanese. I was offended for my grandmother just reading this. I was offended for everyone having to read
I was offended
that.
for your grandmother.
Yeah.
So we haven't even mentioned. So it's Shoto and Daito.
Yeah, they're
the
named
two.
after swords. And I
Yeah.
think they're wearing samurai armor on their avatar.
Yes, they're supposed to be obsessed with samurai culture, which is, I guess, why they talk like that. This is even one I don't really want to dwell on, but it does because it's so like egregious. It merits discussion. Like, we've criticized a lot of authors for not doing any research at all. I find it very hard to believe you couldn't find like one person from Japan willing to like read over this and like,
Or YouTube videos of daily interactions in Japan, or
like-
any number of ways that you could realize that Japanese people aren't like unicorns and mythical beings.
well, there's a very specific thing he's trying to do.
Piss
He's
me
trying to come up with a Japanese teenager obsessed with samurai movies. And they're going to be obsessed with samurai movies in a very different way than an American teenager would be, because the entire culture might be foreign to an American teenager, and so they'd get a distorted... Both teenagers are going to get a distorted view of what samurai culture was like, but a Japanese teenager is going to come at it very differently. And then you have the whole issue of Shoto and Daito speak fluent English.
Fluent English, but they added san to the end of everything.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, do you... I've never met a Japanese person who called me Ben-san.
Yeah, my grandmother's never done that. And when I went to Japan, not a single person who spoke to us in English referred to me as san or any sort of honorific.
No, they would just say, like, Mr. Creed or something, because they're speaking English.
Yeah, they're speaking English.
Like,
Very important to notice that.
it's very much like an American weeb's version of how a Japanese person would speak fluent English, because it is like that. It's like a manga translation where they leave in the honorifics because they just know enough people understand what these honorifics mean at this point that there's not a good translation for them, so we'll just leave them in. But it's like they think that's how Japanese people speak English. They don't realize they're reading a translation from Japanese that's like an
Yeah.
imperfect translation.
Yeah. It feels like something that was gleaned through popular culture at best. And he just was like, well, that's what they're all like.
Or just that he thinks that like that's what a Japanese teenager would approach an American teenager like. And I just can't imagine that.
No,
Like,
I can't imagine that either.
Like, I've encountered Japanese people who are like, it's really surprising how popular anime is over here. Like, they're not expecting that. They would
Right.
not expect you to know what san means. So it would be weird for them, a fluent English speaker, to work in Japanese words and Japanese concepts like the honorific amongst friends.
Yeah, it's dumb. That was us wrapping up part 1. Last time Wade became a super popular guy for getting the copper key, and then he moved to the bastion of civilization of Columbus, Ohio, and that's where we pick up at part 2 today. I feel like it's time for a skit, though. Do you want to do a skit of
Sure.
Because the part begins with a chat log. Again, this is like an autobiography, so he included this chat log of him texting Art 3Miss.
So who am I?
I'll be Wade this time if you want.
All right. Approach me, Wade.
Oh my god, I can't believe you finally responded to my chat request. I've been I've been waiting for this for so long. How are you doing?
Yeah, that was the impression I got. I'm doing good. How are you?
So we're friends, right? I get the feeling that we're friends. Is that accurate?
We're friendly. We're friendly. Yes, I guess.
Okay. All right. I mean, that's fair. Okay. You're enchanting.
What?
I mean, like, got any men in your life? You're a girl, right? I'm pretty sure you're a girl. All my research has deduced that you're in fact a girl. Please tell me you're a girl.
I present female in the Oasis, yes.
Yeah, but like IRL. You're a girl, right?
Sure, yeah.
Like, definitely. Okay. Yeah, because I have like a major crush on you, and I couldn't handle it if you were a dude.
Oh, well, Wade, I might be a dude. You don't know me. So it would be bad to make assumptions like that and then put a lot of emotion into those assumptions, because you could be disappointed when you actually meet me. You will
but
not.
I know you.
By the way,
I know you. We've been chatting.
I don't know you, so that's weird.
I look a lot like me in the
I didn't
Oasis.
ask what you looked like. I said I didn't know you.
Well, we know each other on a mental level. We
don't.
We're touching each other's minds here.
We spoke once in a cave.
Yeah, but I mean, I've been reading all of your articles and like for years, so I definitely know you, Artie. Can I call you Artie?
Do you contribute to my Patreon?
I will now. Yeah, so ladies always seem to find me repulsive.
I can't imagine.
Are we gonna have an online romance? Fingers crossed.
No, we're not. Turns out the pride is actually kicking in, and no.
Would it be wise to continue to let me email you nonstop, like every single day, several times a day, repeatedly?
I'm tempted to say this skit has gone on too long, but it's only really like half the length it's been in the book.
Can I publish this chat log in my book when I make it big?
Absolutely not. And also, if you can continue to send me emails, but they are going into a folder marked stalkers, I just clear it once a month after forwarding it to the FBI.
So of course, we learn at the end of the book that Art Threemus is in fact a man, and Wade is like, you know what? I'm okay with this because we knew each other
on a purely mental level.
Yeah.
No, she's definitely not like a perfectly normal-looking girl.
Yes.
She's Rubenesque, though.
She's Ruben-esque.
She's Rubenesque. But he doesn't mind.
Yeah, thank God.
He's a nice guy.
He does say that at some point. I'm a really nice guy when you get to know me. Like, oh.
He does. He says exactly that. Oh, my God. Oh, Artemis. It's just red flags all the way down.
You are really, really lowering your standards, Artemis. Or Art Threemus. Artie. Yeah, they actually have a budding romance because they keep emailing each other back and forth and getting to know each other, and they start putting the hunt on the back burner so that they can have this weird shared fantasy, go on all kinds of quests, including a quest to the Goonie planet for some fucking reason. I need to stop saying fuck. I'll bleep that out.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to mention that. I forgot to talk about our deal. We're going to try to clean up our language on Words About Books, and I decided that this was the series I wanted to start that with. And if I drop an F-bomb, Nate is going to bleep it out as he is editing these episodes, and he will either edit in, or if we catch it during recording, force me to say one nice thing, one compliment about this book. I've got
this
3 loaded.
Book.
I've got 3 loaded, and if we go beyond that, I'm just going to have to start lying to you. So, yeah, continuing on, what drove you to curse?
Oh, it was the Goonies planet for some reason.
Of course there's a Goonies planet.
Of course. There's an entire planet dedicated to a film that I'm going to guess was probably 2 hours in length.
And took place in a single town, and the sewers beneath that town.
Here's me coming clean. I've never seen the Goonies.
I've seen the Goonies. It's, oh boy, I'm just gonna step in it. Overrated.
Oh my God.
It's a fine movie. It's good. It's good movie. It is not legendary. And I'm gonna throw this out there too. I don't even like The Sandlot.
Oh my God.
Every bus trip I was ever on in school, and I guess I'm revealing a little bit of my privilege here because it was a bus with a TV in it.
Oh my god. What?
It was always The Goonies and The Sandlot. I've seen those movies so many times on buses that I associate them with buses, and I don't like them.
I also don't know what the Sandlot even is, so.
That's not surprising. You are like the exact wrong person to read a book like this.
I know what the Goonies is, at least.
Okay.
But it's just not something that, like I heard the description and I was like, I think I'm gonna not go watch that. I don't really care to.
It's okay. If you've never seen it, it merits watching once. It's a fine little adventure movie, and it's funny. Like, it has some, like, if you haven't been spoiled by the decades of references made to it, then it is really, really a decent movie. But, like, I feel like this movie changed people's lives, and it is way too important to them.
Like Star Wars.
Yeah. So there's a Goonies planet. Let's move on.
Yeah. Wade thinks that maybe the Jade Key is in a box of Captain Crunch somewhere because of this limerick or whatever.
Wait, that's
it was.
right. There's a Goonies planet, and then they don't do anything with that.
They do nothing with that. It's just a throwaway description of how he went on this not date with Art 3 Miss. I'm gonna start calling her Artie. I hate the joke is already.
Yeah, I was gonna say it takes so long to say.
So then the chapter ends, I think, with Wade being like, and then like an idiot, I told her how I really felt.
Which time?
Yeah, really. He already said that he was cyber stalking her and had a huge crush on her.
I find you enchanting. Can we have a cyber romance? She knows. I know. I, Artemis, know how you, Parzival, feel. Okay? I'm purposely not talking about it.
Yes. So he brings it up again. They're both the two Japanese Gunters and H. They're called the High Five. Woohoo!
Wait,
and they're all invited.
Okay, sorry, I had to count. I forget H because H just kind of goes away for most of the book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the five of them are invited to Ogden Morrow's birthday party, which for some reason is held on in a nightclub in zero gravity on a PvP planet. Whatever. Wade and Artie are the only two that actually end up going. And God, he shows up in a DeLorean. It's a very long quote. We can skip it. It's something.
He shows up in Ernest Cline's DeLorean.
Yeah.
Yeah, he shows up in Ernest Cline's DeLorean. Yeah.
But he added Kit from Knight Rider and a bunch of other stupid...
That's in Ernest Cline's DeLorean.
Oh, no. Is it really?
Yes. Did you not watch the copious...
No. I can't bring myself to actually do more quote-unquote research on this asshole.
I have watched the tour of Ernest Cline's DeLorean.
So this is just straight up his DeLorean.
Yes. I don't know if he owned it at the time he wrote the book, or if this was a fantasy he fulfilled afterwards.
He got all that sweet book money and bought a DeLorean and added all this crap to it.
Yep.
I feel like a worse person for having known that.
Was it you or my wife who pointed out that DeLoreans ceased production because they're death traps?
Probably your wife.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about cars.
Yeah, no, like apparently it was like if you hit the bumper or something, they explode.
So Wade arrives in Ernest Cline's stupid DeLorean and does some zero gravity dancing with Artie, and then he's like, I love you. And yes, as you said, she's well aware, and she's purposefully not talking about it, doesn't reciprocate, and she's like, what are we doing? Like, we need to be getting our head in the game for this hunt. He's like, so you love money more than me? And she's like,
let's just do the scene. Okay. Let's just do the scene. Because
All
this
right.
is like, this is one of the like worst moments of the book. This is one of my
Yes.
like, if I could highlight this several thousand times. Hang on, I know exactly what I'm gonna search for, and I'm not going to use the word, but it's no, I'm gonna use the word in quotes. That's fair.
Okay.
This time I'll be Wade.
Oh, geez. Okay.
To hell with our competition and the egg. Didn't you just hear what I said? I'm in love with you, and I want to be with you more than anything.
Yeah, I think this was a bad idea. I think we've kind of given this way too much of our lives to this. I think that like we're buying into this fake romance a little too hard.
What do you mean? What are you saying?
I mean, we should probably just go our separate ways, break off amicably, look for the egg, and maybe when the egg hunt is over, we can see where it goes.
I felt like I'd been punched in the throat. Are you breaking up with me?
You can't break up with someone you never dated. Thanks for the Patreon money, though.
So then you're just going to stop talking to me?
Yep.
For how long?
Until the egg hunt is over.
But, Artie, that could take years.
Yeah, well, sorry, I guess?
So what, winning this money is more important to you than me?
I mean, yeah, it kind of is. It's like several $100 billion. But, like, we could fix the world with that money. Do you not get
right,
that?
saving the world because you're so fucking noble. You know what? You don't deserve me.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. I definitely don't deserve you.
Ah. And then the roof explodes.
Yeah. As an afterthought, and because he didn't know how to end this, the Sixers come in to attack Wade and Artie specifically, and then Ogden Morrow just cheats and erases them all from existence, basically.
Have you ever been in one of those conversations where it's like the argument has gotten out of hand, you realize like you wish you'd never even started it, and you're like, man, I just wish the roof would explode.
Yeah,
so I didn't
yeah.
I didn't have to figure out how to end this conversation. Oh god. That is how both Wade and Artemis feel. Yeah, I wrote a 5,000 word essay on why I don't like Ready Player One, and this conversation featured heavily in it. I'm gonna reference Twilight because that is my book that is bad that I like. Edward and Bella both kind of want to pursue this relationship, but in this case, the guy thinks it's wrong and is trying to resist, and in this case, Artemis is supposedly falling for Wade as well, but she wants to focus on the egg hunt because her entire life's goal has been trying to find a way to make the world better. And it's like in Twilight, if Bella just like from the get-go, before Edward had even like before the meadow scene, if like on the way to the meadow, Bella was like, we need to be together forever, Edward. I love you so much. Oh my god, I just need to be with you every waking moment. And it's like, that is how Bella feels.
But she has a little bit of tact.
She wisely does not say that. Because it's putting a lot on the other person, isn't it? Like, it's not fair to do that to another person. Like it's kind of like the, if you don't date me, I'm gonna kill myself.
Yo,
like,
yeah.
Like it's you can't do that.
What did Wade expect to happen? Like, oh, you love this money more than me, and she goes, oh no, I guess that's not true. I guess we can just ignore the hunt then.
No, it's I want to say he's totally like forgotten himself, but he has no social experience whatsoever. So it's not even like he's caught up in his emotions. Like this is a demonstration that he doesn't actually know how to interact with other people. He doesn't know he sounds like a child throwing a tantrum at the grocery store because his mom didn't buy him the toy. And that somehow if he makes a big enough scene, she'll just buy him the toy. But
That's how that works.
In this case, it's not a toy that can be bought. It's another human being's affection. Yeah, what else is there to say? Let's go. Yeah, so Ogden cheats. Ogden has God mode enabled on his avatar, so he kills all the Sixers, and it was essentially, literally, we never find out why the Sixers attacked. They never attack like that again. It was purely just because Ernest Cline didn't know how to end that conversation.
Well, they want to eliminate Wade and Artie
right,
from the
and they
scoreboard.
never try to do that again.
Never again.
Nope.
Well, I guess I should have thrown out that Wade gave himself a fake identity before he moved to Columbus. That comes up like next episode. Anyway.
No, I was going to say, in fact, not only do they never try to kill their avatars again, they just, spoilers, they just start murdering people in real life.
Yeah.
Which is somehow easier.
Yeah. Why?
Especially why when you can just kill the avatar. These people are constantly moving into PvP zones all the time. Well, you don't have enough Sixers to just, like, hang out?
An army of Sixers.
How many 80s planets are there?
There's, what? It's a Rubik's Cube of zones, so there's like 27.
That doesn't sound that hard. Look,
no, it doesn't.
There's no point.
Not at all.
There's no point discussing the logic of this book. Just go on.
Yeah, let's just move on.
I just have to, like, stop myself because I could talk about this forever.
Well, let's talk about your favorite part then. Wade, after being, quote, dumped by his not girlfriend. So, Wade discusses how his life is going. He talks about how he got all this new cutting-edge Oasis tech. And then he starts talking about masturbating. Because Anorak also talked about how great masturbation was, and then he's like, well, where would Galileo, Newton, and Einstein be if they didn't use masturbation? Galileo and Einstein, they fucked. Oh, God. And then Wade starts talking about, like, I was curious, so I bought this state-of-the-art sex toy. And it's like, this is your autobiography, Wade. Why are you including this in your autobiography? If I ever bought a sex toy, that's not going in my autobiography, Wade. I don't understand why you're doing this.
I don't want to kink shame you, Wade, but, like, you could be a little ashamed of that kink. Like, just a little. Ernest Cline obviously thought this was, like,
profound.
I don't know. He obviously thought that this was very edgy or interesting or funny. I really don't know what tone he's going for here. I think he's going for a little bit of a funny tone because if you've ever checked out any of Ernest Cline's slam poetry,
oh my God,
it is very explicitly sexual.
And also unironically about the male case.
He's going for a couple of things. He doesn't know how to be funny without being shocking. So he's kind of got this shock comic style of poetry. And I'm sure this bit about masturbation is something that he had separate to Ready Player One because it comes so out of nowhere. Apparently, this bit about masturbation, it's not just in Wade's autobiography. It's in Halliday's autobiography. He takes the theory on masturbation from Anorak's Almanac and repeats it verbatim and then elaborates upon it and talks about how he feels that Halliday was really onto something. Now, if this were a smarter book, I could say at this point, we should realize as the audience that, oh, there's a lot of shit in Anorak's Almanac that probably shouldn't be in Anorak's Almanac, especially if Anorak was trying to choose a high school kid for his successor. Well, and like we should start to realize at this point that Anorak, he's kind of like a weird,
creepy weirdo.
Like this weird recluse thing. Like it's not a fun Willy Wonka deal. This is like a real reality creepy recluse. And
Yeah, this is
Wade,
like a bunch of mental health disorders come to life that were just never treated.
not only not treated, indulged to the fullest extent of his vast wealth. And Wade is now over-identifying with the worst parts of Halliday. If this were a smarter book, that would be the case. But I promise you, no matter what he wrote in Ready Player 2, because I think we will talk about that a little bit, maybe next episode, he does not see it that way.
No.
He does not see this as a creepy thing. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying masturbation is creepy. I'm not saying even having a sex doll is creepy. I'm just saying the way he talks about it is creepy. I'm honestly not trying to kink shame or sex shame or anything like that. But there is a really dark loneliness and nihilism in the way he talks about this.
Well, that's a perfect segue into this next part then. So, first Wade mopes about how his only true love abandoned him in the same, like, page or paragraph that he casually describes more rioting, war, and famine. And then we finally learn that Wade painted his windows black. He removed all the hair on his body with a chemical agent because he didn't want to bother with grooming. And he has an exercise and diet regimen, the specific purpose of which is to keep his meat body alive and running so that he can do more egg hunting.
I will offer you a quote. I decided that everything outside the window was a distraction from my quest, so I didn't need to waste time staring at it. I didn't want to hear the outside world either, but I hadn't been able to improve upon the apartment's existing soundproofing. So I had to live with the muffled sounds of wind and rain, and of the street and air traffic.
Boo-hoo.
Even these could be distractions. At times, I'd slip into a kind of trance, sitting with my eyes closed, oblivious to the passage of time, listening to the sounds of the world outside my room.
Sleeping?
No, he's literally isolated himself to the point that he's losing time. And go like that's how I read this. Like he's isolated himself to the point when you're in solitary confinement, there is a reason that's torture.
Oh yeah, he's removed a lot of his senses.
Yeah. And so when he hears something outside, it's almost like a hypnotic attraction to him.
Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
It's dark.
Even worse. Yeah.
Yeah, his mental health is falling off a cliff. And I want to point out that he will go like this is where I want you to put a pin in this. And I want you to realize that you can still like the book, it's totally fine, but this is one of the things you need to know. In real life, if you find yourself feeling like this or doing something like this, you're putting yourself at real risk.
Yes.
This is not healthy, and it's not cool. Just know it's not cool. This is not edgy or funny or anything like that, because Wade, this is one of the flaws of the we exist on a purely mental connection. He's going to go on to say that each of his friends, Daito, Shoto, H, and Artemis, that he has like intense mental connections with all of them, and that they are true friends, even though they've never met in the real world. That could be true, but they also never have any idea he went through this. For the rest of the book, they never know he went through this, and this will culminate in Wade's considering suicide.
Yes.
So, I'm sorry for that aside, but like, this is one of the points where I was like, not a good message, Ernest.
Not at all.
Not a good message to go unexamined.
And that's why, like you speculate, an editor probably added the moral of the story right at the end that is so counter to this. This is clearly what Halliday envisioned. He wanted you to really dig into how to get this stupid Easter egg and to study all that 80s crap, and the only way to do it is to basically give up your life for it.
He wanted you to become him. He wanted his successor to understand what it was like to be him. And what it was like to be him was miserable. He is a miserable man who alienated himself, isolated himself, never found happiness, and died alone.
Wow, that's another perfect segue because there's a time skip of about 5 months, and he doesn't have any friends basically. Like he quested once with Shoto and Daito, but then they don't really keep in touch. He falls out with H, and Artie isn't returning any of his many cyber stalkerish whatever.
Yeah, we could call them messages, but then there's a point where he stands outside of her house holding up a boombox because it wasn't that cute. You remember the boombox thing from whatever movie that was?
I don't know what movie that was.
I don't know what movie that was either. I don't like John Hughes. I like The Breakfast Club and Ferris Bueller's Day Off. That's it.
Yeah, that's about it.
So, where are we? Wade has no friends.
Wade has no friends, and he's taken a tech support job because he can't make enough money streaming stolen content, which is what he does. He just straight up steals content from like 80s reruns, puts it on a stream, and then he runs commercial ads and makes a profit off of that, which is
so yeah. This
really
is
dubious.
This is a fascinating like. Every nerd has, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but like I could say like I was in my college radio club and I got to, pick what tracks were played and everything. And so I would try to plan out my shows to be enjoyable. And I got kind of a kick out of like showing off my good taste. And it is very like self-indulgent and stupid, but yeah, the Oasis has a kind of deal where I guess they own at this point enough of these properties that they can allow their users to make their own stations, what are essentially playlists of media, like television shows and movies, that you can tune into a channel and see like Parsifal's curated media selection and whatever he's playing at the moment.
And he can run commercials on it and make a profit.
Yeah. So it's kind of, I don't know how like running commercials on it is legal, but it's obviously like this whole book is just fantasy wish fulfillment. And obviously at some point Ernest Cline had the fantasy of running a television station.
Well, speaking of fantasy wish fulfillment, Wade is forced to get a tech support job and he berates his customers constantly. I guess he doesn't do that out loud right now. But hey, did we mention that Cline had a tech support job at one point and probably hates people because that's what it comes off of when you read this?
I had a tech support job once.
Did you insult the client directly to their face?
But I was tempted. Now, I wasn't just like a call center guy. I was the actual like IT guy. I've told this story many times, but I don't think I've ever said it on the podcast. The worst call I ever got was a lady called and she's like, my mouse isn't working. And I asked her, I was like, okay, I know this seems real simple, but just real quick, is it plugged in?
Yep.
I don't know. You're going to have to come down. So I went down. It was not. I plugged it in. And that was the end of the call. And I was very tempted to say, how can you not know?
How can you work here and not know if your mouse is plugged in?
Yeah, and I should point out, this was an engineer.
Oh my god.
This was a civil engineer.
Oh my god.
So,
was she like 80? Like she just...
No, she was maybe in her 40s. I mean, like,
oh my god.
Yeah, I don't think there was any... No, this was...
God.
This was maybe 10 years ago. So, yeah, like, it's not like it was the early days of IT or anything. So, it's... I everybody who's ever worked at a help desk has one of those stories about like a customer who it's you just don't know how they get through their day-to-day life without like a modicum of problem solving ability. But you do also have to keep in mind that a lot of people, especially earlier on, were like intimidated by computer equipment, and they're terrified of breaking it, and so they just rather somebody who ostensibly knows what they're doing goes and deals with it. And the dirty little secret of IT is that none of us really know what we're doing. We just figure it out as we go. Google is the only reason I can do my job. So I kind of I get it. I get wanting to work in your IT experience. I did a little bit of that with even in Edenverse, like with Dave, when he calls the help desk and he tricks the guy. Like, you could do that. Like, yeah, so I guess I can't pick on Ernest Cline too much for wanting to work in his life's experience here, but
it doesn't make me like Wade anymore, though.
Well,
in fact, even a little less.
You do have to, in the moment, I gotta admit, I was looking at that lady like, you really called me down here to plug in a mouse? Like, but in retrospect, it is like you do have to try to understand that they're not stupid. They're just, for whatever reason.
That is not the lesson I learned from Wade.
No.
The lesson I learned from Wade is people are stupid.
Everybody is dumber than Wade.
Yes.
Here's a fun 80s bit of trivia for you. Back in the 80s, one of the most commonly used passwords for an IT admin was God.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Give you an idea of the types of egos you deal with in that industry.
Oh, God. Well, while Wade is wasting his life having to work for a living, gosh. Which, first of all, how do you get a job when he says that it takes like years because unemployment is so rampant and whatever. I guess I shouldn't.
He gave himself a bachelor's of science in computer science, which I have. I finally get to show off my credentials.
Would that put you at the top of the line when the Great Recession goes on for 30 years?
Oh boy, I hope so, because I've never felt like I was at the top of any line.
Well, Wade got to the top of that line, and he wasted his life having to work for the man, and while he was doing that, Artie finds the Jade Key. Yeah, he's no longer the top gunter. He became complacent.
To point out, though, Artie also found the first key before Wade.
Yes, but she wasn't a better jouster than Wade.
No,
Joust, which is still a bad game, by the way.
But she is much smarter than Wade, and it's almost as if she should be in charge of the company because she has like actual intelligence and not just good joust muscle memory. I digress.
Well, you're wrong on that because Halliday wants you to have good joust muscle memory, so that's what you're gonna have.
It's really important to design in the VR tech. You really need to like flap those wings.
So there is a brief explanation of what are called artifacts, which are single items in the game because this is a poorly programmed MMO, and so the Sixers have an item that allows them to track people, like by writing down their name. So when Artie finds the key, the Sixers just write her name down and know which sector she's in. So they send an entire battalion of guys out there, which draws attention so everyone knows what sector the key is located in. And that leads Wade to go, oh yeah, I guess they casually bring up a bomb that can kill an entire sector in one go and there's no defense against it. I'm sure that won't come up later. So
I gotta pause you there because I want to talk about that. Like, this is gonna be brief because we mentioned it before, but the artifacts, like getting the name artifact and getting the bomb artifact, it all happens off screen. It's just all we hear. Wade is living in a blue house with a blue window, and his mirror in his car and everything is so blue. And that's a reference.
I know.
You remember that? You remember Eiffel 65?
But wasn't that a 90s song?
I don't care. And I'm not 50 years old. So instead of seeing how the Sixers get any of this stuff, or how Artemis gets in there, or how any of the setup for the novel comes to be, we just get payoff with no setup.
Oh, yes.
And in place of our setup, a lecture on the importance of masturbation to the development of human society. And so when I tell you that I have read better fan fiction, in fact, I have read better creepypastas, they at least understand setup and payoff. And many of them don't talk about masturbation. Throwing that out there. So yes, now, out of nowhere, there is an entire other plot and a ticking clock that exists because he decided we're telling the story again.
Yeah. There's a magic tablet that lets them find where Artie is, and that leads Wade to the sector. And he's like, it's got to be on the planet Arcade. It's spelled really stupid, though. Oh, God, I'm just losing the will to live as I read this. Okay, so...
Wade plays a perfect game of Pac-Man.
Oh, God, yes.
And he gets a quarter. And that quarter is an extra life.
Whoa, now. Spoilers. So, yeah, he goes to this museum to Halliday, doesn't find the key, and then he finds a Pac-Man game that's 10 points lower than the perfect game, and he's like, oh, my God. Hardly anyone's ever done a perfect game. Yeah, there's only 6 people in the real world who's ever done a perfect game of Pac-Man, but Wade does it in 8 tries. He's like, luckily I'm a Pac-Man master. I studied it a lot.
We didn't see him do any of that, but luckily, off-screen, he was a Pac-Man master. And so this puzzle is basically already solved, and we're just sitting here reading the description of a man playing Pac-Man for 20 pages.
It's as interesting as how you just described it. That's how it reads.
Did you know that Ernest Cline downloaded an arcade emulator thing and the Pac-Man ROM so that he could skip to the last level of Pac-Man so that he would be able to accurately describe what the last level of Pac-Man looked like?
Wow. He couldn't just YouTube it?
We needed it to be authentic. I needed to know. No, we didn't need to do that level of research for Shoto and Daito. That doesn't matter. Those are people. Those are human beings. They don't matter to a story, you know. But the last level of Pac-Man, I really wanted to make sure I wasn't wrong about any of the subtle details of that 8-bit
that makes
game.
It so much worse. You're right. Yeah. So, yeah, he gets a quarter. The quarter doesn't have any description. I'm sure it won't ever come up later, but yeah, it's an extra life.
Master Puzzle Solver Wade can't figure out what a quarter, a mysterious, unique quarter, might symbolize when found next to an arcade cabinet. What do quarters at arcades do? Who knows?
He can't figure it out, and he'll never try.
But he's a master puzzle solver. He's studied. He's no dilettante. He read the complete works of Tolkien or something. I don't even remember what it was. The Holy Trilogies.
One of them was Back to the Future, I think. One of them was Star Wars. Both the originals and the prequels, in that order.
There's a planet Zemeckis.
I don't. What is that?
That's the director of Back to the Future. Do you remember?
I remember Back to the Future.
Do you remember Back to the Future?
I remember.
Don't you want a DeLorean? That. Isn't it cool that he has a DeLorean? Don't you want that? The doors open up.
Oh my God.
Yeah, like little wings.
Oh my God. That's something only the rich can ordinarily afford.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Oh, and do you remember how he gave Shoto and Daito? I guess Daito had it. The Ultraman Beta capsule.
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that. Yes, they go on a quest, and he gives them an Ultraman Beta capsule. That's an
because
artifact.
because that like they have a big debate about who should have it, and he's like, no, Ultraman should stay with Japan.
Oh God, yeah. Again, I
I
don't get
spoke
how
it to
this
them in their
works.
native tongue.
I don't get how it works because, like you said, it's not open source. Otherwise, I could just make my own Ultraman Beta capsule.
Yeah, you could just
But
make as
people
many beta
can design
capsules as you
their
want.
own stuff though. So like, why can't I just design an Ultraman like giant robot that I can go inside of, even though he's not a giant robot apparently?
Bro, who knows?
Because he didn't want it to be that way. Because he wanted it to be unique. So yeah. So then H out of nowhere sends a message to Wade because the reason they had a falling out is Wade was like, "Well, you wouldn't even have the copper key without knowing me. You suck." And then H was like, "Well, my debt's been paid. Here's where I found the key."
Yes, and that is another interaction that happened off screen. And it's just, I haven't talked to H in a while. Wade hasn't been doing any research. He has no idea where this fucking key is. But I just so happened to have had a fight with
you
H.
said it.
Oh. I enjoyed Ultraman fighting Mechagodzilla.
Oh my god.
I liked, this is spoilers I guess, but I liked that that was a thing that belonged to Daito, that was important to a friend of Wade's, and so it kind of gave me something like a feeling
Something like a feeling.
when
I don't think that
Wade
was intentional though.
used the Ultraman capsule to fight Mechagodzilla. I enjoyed that.
All right, where the hell even are we? Oh yeah, he doesn't do any research, but H tells him where to go. So Wade has a ring of teleportation. This is just now coming up, and he can teleport ahead of where the Sixers are to get to the planet there first. What amazing drama! And he goes to the planet Zork, which has a bunch of instances because again, Ernest has probably never played an MMO and doesn't know that like dungeons can just have multiple instances. But whatever, it's an entire
Ernest has
planet.
played MMOs. He's definitely played MMOs. He does, but he doesn't know how they work.
Clearly. So there's an entire planet covered in houses, identical houses of the game Zork, which is a terrible text adventure game from the 70s. But this one also has a box of Captain Crunch with a prize whistle that he can blow after beating the game, and he does, and he gets the Jade Key. Woo! And then he has to run as. Here's how interesting this is. It's exactly how I'm describing it. There's a Sixer blockade, but my ship got here and it wasn't shot down, and I've got to run the blockade, and so I did, but I barely got out. That's how interesting it reads. It's very bland and passive, and like you got to use a lot of imagination to get anything out of it.
Can I give a one bit of fun, actual interesting '80s trivia?
Okay,
Do you know what a phone freak is?
I've heard of it.
So this is one thing that like
I
actually
think
might be.
you mentioned it.
Yeah, this actually might be interesting to readers of Ready Player One that goes far less explored because I suspect Ernest Cline knows far less about it. There was a guy who went by the handle Captain Crunch who was a phone freak. So everybody knows hackers like find exploits in computer software and computer networks. Phone freaks or freakers found exploits in the phone network, and they still kind of exist to this day, but it was more important back in the day when everybody had landline phones and stuff like that. And one of the things they figured out was that the way payphones indicate that you have paid is they send a signal that is actually a series of tones back to the network, and then it indicates you've paid and you can make your call. That series of tones could be simulated, just like you could just say it into the speaker with one of the plastic whistles that came in a cereal box.
Oh, fancy.
So, yes. So it's that's where that came from. Actually, an interesting bit of 80s trivia. Actually, something people might not have known, that it would be something that like you would have to kind of read and dig and research, but again, because people didn't know it, they couldn't remember it, so we didn't really want to dwell on that.
Yeah, who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares? It's not important.
This is about
worthless 80s trivia because Halliday was involved. Halliday is the only thing that matters, Ben.
No, you remembering these things is the only thing that matters. We're not here to learn something new. We're here to live in our comfortable, warm blanket of familiar things. And phone freaks aren't familiar to most people, so that was just a little Easter egg for the computer guys, huh?
Nice.
See what I did there? Is an Easter egg?
Yeah.
That's like the thing they're doing.
So the Samurai Brothers get the keys next, and Dido becomes Ultraman and beats up a bunch of Sixers, but then he dies because he's not on the scoreboard anymore. And then, unfortunately, the Sixers find the Jade Key, or the Jade Gate first, and also the Crystal Key, Ben! They are so close to winning the contest now, and so Wade spends just a grueling amount of time contemplating just exactly how he's going to kill himself.
Hang on, I'll read it for you.
Okay.
Here's what would happen if the Sixers win the contest. I'd already lost Artemis, and now I was going to lose the contest too. I'd already decided what I was going to do when it happened. First, I would choose one of the kids in my official fan club, someone with no money and a first-level newbie avatar, and I'd give her every item I owned. Then, I would activate the self-destruct sequence on my stronghold and sit in my command center while the whole place went up in a massive thermonuclear explosion. My avatar would die, and Game Over would appear on the center of my display. Then I would rip off my visor and leave the apartment for the first time in 6 months. I would ride the elevator up to the roof, or maybe I'd even take the stairs, get a little exercise.
Oh my god.
There was an arboretum on the roof of my apartment building. I'd never visited it, but I'd seen photos and admired the view via webcam. A transparent plexiglass barrier had been installed around the ledge to keep people from jumping, but it was a joke. At least 3 determined individuals had managed to climb over it since I moved in. It was one of those sounds I heard subtly through the imperfect soundproofing.
Oh god.
Ah.
Oh my god.
I'd sit up there and breathe the unfiltered city air for a while, feeling the wind on my skin. Then I would scale the barrier and hurl myself over the side. That was my current plan. I was trying to decide what to whistle as I plummeted to my death. The last guy did the Green Acres theme song.
Wow.
Then the phone rang.
Wow.
It was Shoto.
Wow. Yeah.
Our hero.
Yeah. Casually referencing other people killing themselves like it's no big deal and contemplating doing the same himself. Because he's going to lose, in his words, a video game contest. Those are his words.
Yes, that's all it is. It's a video game contest. And he's just it's just a video game contest that he's going to kill himself if he loses. This got me thinking though, Nate, Halliday had to know how much people would invest both, like financially, physically, mentally, spiritually into this contest. Halliday knew people would be this invested, that they would spend possibly decades of their lives searching for this, and that then many of them, most of them, billions of them, would lose.
And a lot of them would be children who he wanted to be the ones to win.
And because of the strain this contest would place on any person's mental health, he had to have known that a lot of them would feel like Wade. And indeed, Nate, I guess what I'm trying to ask you is, how many people did throw themselves off ledges when they lost the contest?
Oh, we'll definitely get to that in part 3, because of what happens in that part, which I'm sure did not help at all.
So just keep that in mind, guys.
Yeah, it's a little preview for next episode.
This fun 80s romp almost drove our main protagonist to suicide. Ernest Cline has nothing to say about that. It's supposed to be funny. Are you laughing? Are you laughing at that depiction of a man at the brink? Because you should be.
Oh man! So then the stereotypically cardboard cutout Japanese man, Shoto, he's like, Wade, we need to meet in person, face to face. But what he really means is like face to face inside the Oasis. And he arrives, but he's not with Daito. Oh yeah, they bow a whole bunch first. I need to get that out of the way. And then Wade's like, yeah, where's Daito? I mean, I know he's dead, but like, you just make a new avatar and start over. And Shoto's like, no, they killed him in real life too. And why did they do this, Ben? I don't understand what the advantage of actually murdering this guy was.
Sorry, I'm just rereading it. Parsifal-san, he said, bowing low. Shoto-san. I returned the bow respectfully and stretched out my palm, a gesture he recognized from the time we spent questing together. Grinning, he reached out and slipped me some skin.
As if he doesn't know what that was already.
He doesn't know what it is. He doesn't know what a high five is.
They are called the high five. Oh my god. All right. Well, yeah, I don't understand why they killed Daito in real life, but Wade is like, sure he didn't just jump? And then Shoto, not understanding his own samurai culture obsession, goes, no, I don't think he committed seppuku. Ernest, I
gotta read some of this. Man.
Okay.
Shoto opened a browser window in the air beside us. It displayed a Japanese news article. I tapped it with my index finger, and the Mandrax software translated the text to English. It translated the text to English, Nate. The headline was, Another Otaku Suicide. A common word. A common loan word.
A common word in English as well. Translated to that.
That, like, everybody who doesn't watch anime knows.
Going back to my point, though, Ernest, you know seppuku and jumping off a building are two completely different things, right? Like, seppuku is not the word for suicide. It's a specific ritual.
Yeah,
you know that, right?
Same thing. It's not even the same thing as harakiri.
No.
Yeah, like, okay, so Daito was thrown off a ledge, right?
Yeah, he was just chucked out. I think it was out a window or something. For some reason. I don't understand the reason they killed this guy.
Yeah.
They were ahead in the game. They had the crystal key. All their enemies only had the jade key. But they still had to go out of their way to kill this guy. And up until this point, their entire plan was, we're going to just follow them to the keys and the gates. So yeah, really, they're eliminating a very valuable asset to them.
So they killed his avatar, which means he lost the keys, right?
Yes, he was removed from the scoreboard.
And they've blocked anyone from getting the copper key, right?
I think that was stopped because they erect some shields and then all the Gunter clans come and antimatter bomb it into oblivion. So I think that they no longer guard the copper key.
Okay. So I guess, like, he could conceivably just make a new avatar, because it doesn't seem like it's very hard to get to max level. Like, Wade did it in a couple months once he had the money.
Well, yeah, that keeps you behind, though. I mean, you have to go from level 1 to 99 again.
Right, but, yeah, I mean, I guess
and
they could have...
the game is over in a month anyway. Spoilers. But I just don't understand, like, why bother eliminating him in real life?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like taking out the Avatar already put him behind enough that I don't really know what they gain by that.
Yeah, they're already way ahead.
Yeah, I can't. I'm trying to think of anything they could possibly have gained from killing him. I guess the implication is that there's just no risk to them in killing Daito.
There's no risk to them as long as they don't record it and then store it somewhere where it can be retrieved and used as evidence later. So I hope that they're not doing that. That would be really dumb of them.
It's just another thing that happens off screen for no reason that moves the plot along.
Well, I guess it's to try to raise the stakes. Maybe that's its reason. Like, oh no.
But again,
Even though they already bombed Wade's trailer.
Yeah, here's a payoff with no setup.
I guess it also gets Wade the Ultraman capsule.
Okay, well, you know what, though? Like I said in my compliment, I liked that.
Yeah,
because
yes.
Here we have a very simple setup and payoff. They got that Ultraman capsule together. It was Daito's. Daito's gone. He can't use it anymore. And so they give it to Wade. So there's some meaning to that. Beyond
Wade
the
is
fact...
like, you killed my cardboard cutout.
But beyond the fact that it is just Ultraman, there is some importance there. It doesn't save the book by any means. But, Ernest, if you had done this for all of the plot points, we'd have a book.
It would at least be a book.
We have the makings of a narrative here. Not just the journal of a madman. I'd say neckbeard, but he's hairless.
All right, so moving the plot along, I guess the Jade Key was covered in like tinfoil, and somehow Wade figures out it's a Blade Runner reference, and then there's like 5 pages of nonstop Blade Runner references.
That was such an ass pull, by the way.
And the gate is inside the Tyrell Corporation building, and like that's been copy-pasted so many times over so many worlds. They all happen to have the gate. So could you just copy-paste the keys and the gate locations to another location and just have them privately? Because they also copy-paste the school planet, but without the Tomb of Horrors.
Yeah, they edit that out because it's open source, right?
So could you just copy-paste the Tomb of Horrors into, like, your own stronghold and just keep doing it over and over in the privacy of your stronghold?
I can't remember if I mentioned this in the first episode, but it's kind of a lame criticism, I guess, but I am something of a programmer, and, like, code scans are a thing that exists, and like I'm sure a lot of talented people out there would very quickly develop tools to scan the code for potential Easter eggs.
Yes.
And keys.
I mean, Wade has a primitive scanner that just finds the Tomb of Horrors on the planet's surface, so it's conceivable you could do that like how we do it today.
I mean, there's a finite number of planets. Even if it took a very long time, like I'm sure somebody's running code scans on just...
I would be willing to take the time for several $100 billion.
Well, like, I mean, it would take processing time is what I'm saying, depending on how fast computers are these days and how much code there is. Like, I guess he could argue it's not... Like, if somebody is running on like that scan, it may take like 50 years to complete or something, but
he should at least mention that that's
well,
a thing.
You could also, even then, like, I'm trying to think how I would approach solving this contest, because it is not I would spend years in a box memorizing 80s trivia. That is not how I would approach solving this problem.
But like, how would you win the joust game, Ben?
I wouldn't even attempt to. I would just write a bot to win the joust game. Like, I would just probably use a little bit of intelligence. I mean, you could figure out, like, you could probably narrow down searches to, like, I got to imagine a large chunk of the stuff in the Oasis is stuff that would not appeal to Halliday. So you could probably throw out, 75% of the Oasis and just go on to like
Specifically his stuff.
scanning planets that he either touched or trying to figure out what his aliases are, because it apparently he edits things under aliases. Like when you upload a planet, you have to attach your name to the thing. So you just figure out all Halliday's aliases, figure out who Halliday is. Like there is a real world, like it would be almost a I do this every time I'm writing a better book. It would almost be more interesting if if the real way to win the game was not
To go outside.
was not to engage with the 80s nonsense, but to go out in the real world and find all of Halliday's aliases and all that stuff, and then like run actual scans or things like that. I just can't imagine, like, how often are things data mined out of games that are not open source?
All the time.
Like, these keys are assets that exist in game. Are you telling me somebody can't data mine out the asset for the key and then work backwards to figure out where that asset's used?
Yeah, but then we don't get to have a guy beating a lich at Joust, which is what we needed.
I understand, and that's why I say it's kind of like I'm willing to give it to you. All you like, it would just help me if you didn't call it open source. I don't know why I know why that's such a sticking point for me. I don't know if it's reasonable for that to be a sticking point for everyone, but like it's just kind of it bothers me because it was an attempt to show off knowledge and it's used incorrectly. And so the attempt fails, and I just feel compelled to, I guess I'm that guy on the internet who's like, the fastest way to find out the answer to a question is to post the wrong answer, and then somebody on the internet will tell you the right one. I'm that guy. And my point is this would all be easily solved, especially if one were willing to cheat. Especially if one were employing a PhD computer scientist who was willing to help you cheat. I don't think he'd help you cheat by
murdering people and
like if you can have
rigging your hardware so that you could have 80s experts tell you the answer.
Yeah, if you could hack your hardware so that it could be remotely controlled by anybody, you just write a bot to play Joust. You're not going to have a bunch of people on payroll playing Joust all the time.
Well, that's because IOI is secretly like the best company in this world that's helping the most amount of people, which we'll get into on the next part.
Oh, they're just providing jobs?
Yeah, they're just providing free jobs and shelter and food to a whole bunch of people.
I'm a job creator. I could automate this entire process, but I care about people, so I'm going to hire a guy to play Joust. Oh, Lord.
Oh, man. Where the hell are we? Oh, yeah. Blade Runner references. He finds the Jade Gate, and he does describe mowing down NPCs left and right and having to buy a ton of bullets. Like, he has a bill for his bullets. So this is a dystopia, but whatever. So then he goes inside the gate, and he's in the arcade game Black Tiger. But luckily, Wade, quote, mastered Black Tiger a long time ago, and he just effortlessly wins and gets a free giant robot as well. And then he knows where the crystal key is from the hint. And he makes a bunch of Rush references. And then, to his horror, after gaining the crystal key, he discovers that the Sixers have a magical orb that was just brought up that is impossible to penetrate as long as a 99th level wizard touches it. And he'll never realize his dream of owning all the money in existence. And that's the end of this part. And this actually, it reads like, have you ever had like a lunch table discussion in elementary school where you're like, well, I'm invincible because I do this. And it's like, I have an anti-whatever force field.
I was just going to say, it's like a rock, paper, scissors with additional rules.
Yeah.
Where everybody's just like, well, I've got a dragon.
Laser gun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Does he shred a sick guitar solo in this part?
Yes.
Because he also learned guitar off screen.
He learned guitar off screen because that's what Halliday learned, and I cannot imagine Halliday had a single creative music bone in his body. But he finds a guitar and he does a sick solo, just like Paul from Dune.
The balisette.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
So that's the end of part 2. Oh, boy.
I think we really hammered home the laziness of the writing, of how it's just like, I found a guitar. Fortunately, I learned how to play guitar.
I saw Pac-Man, and I realized that I'd have to play a perfect game. Luckily, I was really good at Pac-Man, so I played it 8 times and I won.
It boggles my mind how, like, I don't know. I guess I shouldn't name specific names, but there are certain authors I've seen give this book like glowing reviews and 5-star reviews, and I'm like, I'm just like, I can understand liking it. I totally can. If you grew up in the 80s, maybe this works for you. But I just do it because I don't understand. I mean, I guess maybe when this book came out, it's like an unknown author's first published book, and you want to give them like a leg up. But like, oh my God, how many more legs up does he need to get? Like, take the story of Ready Player One, replace the references with references to like the 20s or something, some decade that is not going to be well remembered in 2011.
They're gonna do the Charleston.
Yeah, but just like say like it's a guy who was passionate about this time period. Just any other time. Just replace the nostalgia with a nostalgia that is not current. Say he's passionate about like fantasy or something, or even like a more obscure set of like subcultures. Like say that Halliday was really passionate about fantasy. And the reference is, instead of busting out a sick Rush solo, I had to do a perfect rendition of Greensleeves on my lute. Like, you know how stupid that suddenly becomes?
I busted out a sick lute solo.
But you know how stupid that suddenly becomes. Like the plot point is nothing without the reference. If you swap it for a reference that is not from the audience's childhood, it's stupid. So it's not even a good celebration of these things. It doesn't really tell you why they're cool. It doesn't tell you why they're important. Like, you could read, like, maybe say one of the puzzles you got to solve winds up being like an old poem or something, and the character,
you have to read The Chocolate War.
Well, no, the character like really has to understand the old poem, really understand what it meant to the person.
No understanding, Ben.
But
We've
that's
been
the
over
thing.
this.
That's the thing. You can there is a right way to do this. I don't just hate the fact that it's references. I know I keep saying, "Do you remember that? Do you remember that?" But it's like,
well, it's also poorly written and not like our podcast.
Why
our brand? But like
why Rush? Why was it Rush?
Because do you remember that? But
yeah.
But like the Tomb of Horrors is what I keep going back to. It's a creepy ancient tomb that, as far as Wade knows, nobody has ever gone down here. As far as he knows, he's the first. And I just pulled up my guide and I evaded all the traps, and then I found the lich. That's basically how it's written. I did this, I did the thing, and then I was out of there.
You're right. Yeah, you're right.
Oh, there's
a
blockade over the planet, and I almost got blown up, but I didn't, and I escaped.
The writing is terrible, but also nobody who originally came up with the Tomb of Horrors got any credit for this. Like, I don't want to get into copyright law or anything. I don't think it's about what's legal and what's not. I think it's about what's lazy and what's not. You can write a lazy book, that's fine. But why does nobody see this for what it is? I mean, people do, obviously. There's been a huge backlash against it. But not huge enough. Like, there may actually be a Ready Player 2 movie. And I'm just sitting here like, I guess Ready Player 2 is a little bit more critical. At least I've heard that. But that's because somebody had to come and tell Ernest Cline, like, hey, this isn't a real book. You know that, right? Like, this is just like those things. I'll tell you, it's equally as lazy as those like Shakespearean versions of the Star Wars stories.
Oh no! I
Where they
saw
just
a picture of that I took and sent to you.
Where they just write it. I've flipped through them. It's like they literally just write it like all Shakespeare like.
How is that not? That's owned by Lucas, right? That can't be just like a fan made thing, right?
I think in order to, I don't know. They probably get permission or something. But like I said, it's not about what's legal and what's not. It's about the fact that it's extraordinarily lazy. It's a gimmick, and I don't care. I am for extraordinarily liberal copyright laws. I really don't care that he did this in a legal sense. But I just wanted to point out that, like,
could have done something with it.
Ernest Cline has made a career out of referencing other people's shit. And it's kind of not cool that he's achieved all his dreams and he's got all this stuff and all this money, and all he's done is go like, hey, you remember Tomb of Horrors? You remember the guy who wrote the Tomb of Horrors? No, you don't.
No one does.
He's not gonna make a dime off this. You remember you remember Rush? Not that Rush needs it, but they're not gonna make a dime off this either. But you know what? If we put it in the movie, we're gonna have to pay them for their likeness.
So let's not put it in the movie.
Yeah. So it's not gonna be in the movie.
Yeah.
I'm not sharing my profit. I'll just find somebody who I already own.
Yeah, what do we already have? The Iron Giant. Perfect.
And that's the other thing. Like, they the movie is so different from the book, and I don't think he cares. He's just happy to be making movies. And I guess that's fine, but
He as far as I can tell, he wrote Ready Player 2 in order to make a second movie. He didn't write the book because he had more to say. He was like, oh, I might get a second movie out of this. I better write a second book.
I can work with Steven again. I don't want to sound like petty or jealous or anything, and I'm really not. Anyone could do it. He did, so that's great. I mean, get your paper. But, like, it just, when I see other authors especially giving this, like, 5-star reviews, and then I see other debut authors, like the Poppy War.
Right.
Poppy War got a lot of 5-star reviews, but it could have used a leg up from some of these people who gave Ready Player One a leg up.
Right.
Like, that would have meant a lot, especially in the fantasy genre, and it didn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the Poppy War is 10 times, 20 times.
Oh, yeah.
It's so much better of a book than this. It comes from a real place. It tells a new story, or at least a new story to Western audiences. It's just so much better. And the difference between Ernest Cline and Rebecca Kuang is she didn't write about nerdy white guy shit, and she doesn't have all those connections.
Yeah, she couldn't be like, hey, do you remember the Sino-Japanese War, the second one?
I mean, she kind of does that, and the unfortunate answer is no, I don't. Oh, shit. Maybe I should. Spoiler, Wade wins.
Oh my god, that's a preview for next week's episode, where we're going to finish out Ready Player One, and then next month on our book club, we were originally going to read Starship Troopers, but Ben thought maybe that would just make him mad to do it right after Ready Player One, so we are instead going to do the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. Hey everyone, it's Nate from the future here, and I've started reading next month's book, and I'm going to do my due diligence and let you know right now there is a trigger warning if you plan on reading along with us. There is some pretty graphic description of sexual assault in that book towards the end of the book. So if that's not something that's for you, I think maybe sit next month's book out, but tune into the podcast because we will be keeping it family-ish friendly.
For those of you that don't know, Starship Troopers deals with a lot of like fascism, and I think it kind of endorses fascism, and I'm just not ready. I'm not ready to talk about that after Ready Player One. Well, because what have we done now? We've done Midnight Sun, Ready Player One, and then Starship Troopers all in a row. Like,
And Edenverse. Don't forget about Edenverse.
I'd like to read a book. I think
get a
I
break.
Can,
Yeah,
I think I could be positive about. Unless you guys really enjoy me in pain.
I mean, I do. Go
Like,
download that StarCraft episode.
If this is funny to you guys, then we'll do more. But I'll tell you what, if this is funny to you guys, I'm willing to read Ready Player 2.
And I'm willing to read or watch the movie.
I'm willing to watch the movie.
Yeah, if that's what people want.
I think I'm going to watch the movie. I'm just curious at this point. All right, guys, you know what time it is. It's time for the plugs. This month, I definitely want you to check out blog.wordsaboutbooks.ninja if you want to read my 5,000-word essay on why Ready Player One is bad. You can also find us on Twitter at WABpod. Please, if you like this episode or if you like what we do, share us on social media. Tell people about it. That's really the best way you can contribute. And I think that's it.
Bye.
Bye.
On the final exciting episode of Ready Player One. Hey, Og. Why did you and Halliday have a falling out? And Og is like, yeah, Halliday, turns out he wanted to fuck my wife. Like, he wanted to kidnap her before we got married. And, like, yeah, he wanted to just go to town on her. But he never expressed his feelings. So, like...
That is not...
You know.
Okay, I do have to defend... That is not what he said.